Come on in, welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're taking a look at my wish list of things I'm hoping to see in Survivor 43. Now, let me be clear, this is a realistic wish list, so I'm only including things that I think could realistically be in the season. So I'm not going to put, bring back the auction on here, because it just isn't gonna happen. I'm sorry, y'all are still in stage 2 of grief. It's been 7 years, it's time to move on. Before we get into that though, let's take a look at what we know already. In Survivor 43, 18 new players, split into 3 tribes of 6, will compete for 26 days for the title of Sole Survivor. According to a 42-era interview with Jeff Probst, the concept of earning the merge, risk and reward dilemmas, and the shot in the dark will all be back. And according to the Grapevine, Survivor 43 is scrapping the hourglass, do or die twists, and the phrases used to activate idols. Props to Survivor for really listening to fan and player feedback. I love that they're leaning into what worked on 41 and 42 and dropping what didn't. It's a whole new era. They dropped the 4 twists that weren't working and kept the 1 good one. That all sounds great, but what else you got? From editing decisions to the game format to just continuing with what's working, I've got a lot I'm hopeful for in Survivor's next season. So let's talk about it. All that said, let's dig into my realistic wish list for Survivor 43. Let's start with continuing something I really enjoyed about the last 2 seasons. At number 5 is for Survivor 43 to keep the unconventional winners edits of 41 and 42.
Here's Marianne!
If you don't want to get into the edgic of it all and hear about the editing, feel free to skip ahead to number 4. But for those of us who've been watching the show a long time, who've spent hundreds of hours analyzing the show and browsing Survivor message boards, sometimes the show spoils itself with an edit for the winner that is telegraphed from miles away if you know what to look for. One thing I really loved about 41 and 42 is that the way the winner is portrayed was really unconventional, with the winner in both seasons not emerging as a real winner contender until late in the merge. Now, obviously, Erica's 41 edit in hindsight is a frustrating experiment gone wrong. I've regularly speculated on this channel that my belief is that she was intentionally hidden pre-merge, and the hourglass smash, the biggest moment of the season, was intended as her breakout moment, but Erica kinda got lost in the shuffle, taking a backseat in her own storyline due to the backlash from the hourglass. But hey, points for trying something different. Marianne was like the reverse Erica, given plenty of character moments early on, but clearly portrayed more as having a growth arc than a winner's story. I think most people, casual viewers and hardcore edit readers alike, didn't catch on that either of these two could take it home until down the stretch. But you know what? Give me more of that. I love that the show is experimenting with different ways to show the winner of the season, rather than just revisiting the same editing conventions they've repeatedly gone to over the years. Although, there is a non-chance that these unconventional winners edits are reserved for Canadians only. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. At number 4 is for them to keep the Jury Speaks segment that unexpectedly appeared in Survivor 42. Again, this is another thing I want them to just keep on doing. What can I say? They got almost everything right last season. This one's pretty straightforward. Once upon a time, before the final Tribal Council, Survivor used to show us the thoughts of the jury heading into Final Tribal. You know, important information like what they thought of the games of the finalists and what they needed to hear from them in order to earn their vote. Over time, the Jury Speaks segment went from being on the show to being online to not being a thing at all. And to be honest, I hadn't thought about it much in years. But with its reappearance in Survivor 42 ahead of that season's final Tribal Council, I'm really down for this to again become a staple of the show in the new era. My educated guess is that the Jury Speaks segment was a last-ditch effort by the show to really underline to the audience why Mike lost to Marianne. This is the show going out of their way to show that Mike didn't understand his own game, and that by pounding the table over his alleged loyalty, he was doing the literal exact opposite of what the jury needed to hear from him in order to get votes. In any case, the Jury Speaks segment was super refreshing to see and gave us insight into the jury's decision-making process, something we spend the whole post-merge speculating about as fans. It also really made Final Tribal Council feel like the end of a long journey again, with the players reflecting on the finalists' journeys and games. I wouldn't be shocked if this was a one and done to explain a vote some audience members might find confusing, but I'd love for it to stick around. Seriously though, did the salty Facebook crowd watch this season from a sensory deprivation chamber or something? At number 3 is for Survivor 43 to give us a new iconic villain. It's no secret that Survivor in the 40s has a gentler tone than it did in years past, and I've honestly been enjoying seeing the softer side of Jeff Probst. But the one pitfall to Nice Guy Jeff is that we haven't seen many great villains in the new era. Now, to be clear, I don't want to return to the asshole era of Survivor. I just want to see big-time schemers to root against. Think Russell Hanson Survivor Samoa, not Russell Hanson Heroes vs. Villains. So where are all the villains? Well, in Survivor 41, they were on the pre-jury trip. Voce and Sydney both came into the game clearly wanting to play the heel, but they were both voted out pretty early. And in 42, I don't think anyone really wanted to be a bad guy. I think the more negatively toned characters that season were a result of their game or social incompetence than anything else. Sometimes both. The closest we've come to big villains in the new era are Shan and Ricard in Survivor 41 and Omer in Survivor 42. But Omer was a rootable Rob C-esque wheeler and dealer, and Shan and Ricard's villainy was fun at first, but it kinda got overwhelmed by their toxic best frenemy ship, which was interesting to watch, but a little exhausting. I enjoyed all three of these players a lot, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. The good news is, I think the villain dial is getting turned up. The teaser for Survivor 43 that aired at 42's reunion is dark, filled with ominous music, an intense ticking clock sound, and confessionals from players talking about how there's no line they won't cross to win, accompanied with foreboding shots of said player holding a machete. This doesn't focus on typical promo fodder like new twists. It's all about the ethical and moral boundaries the players will be confronting. So I'm hopeful at least one of these people is going to fulfill their villain potential. Gotta say, we're a long way from the promo for Survivor 42 with Marianne and Omer's adorable, shocked Pikachu faces. At number 2 is for the show to involve the pre-jurors in the reunion. My understanding is that, like in Survivor 41 and Survivor 42, the reunion will take place on the island. That's fine. I understand that CBS is particularly hesitant to go back to live audiences across the board, or maybe that's just their excuse for no one wanting to see James Corden. Regardless, I do hope that they sequester the pre-jury castaways this season and allow them to participate in the reunion too. I mean, they mattered. They were there. While I understand why they weren't there the last 2 seasons, I'm really hoping the pre-jury players can join in on the champagne and pizza party this time. Not only do we tend to lose at least one big character pre-jury each season that it would be nice to check in with, but I think it would just be straight up fun for Jeff to ask some of the early boots how they think things went down. Like, imagine the pre-jury of 42 walking in and seeing that Marianne, who was on the bottom of her tribe pre-merge, beat out Mike and Romeo, who were on the top of their tribes pre-merge at Final Tribal Council. Really though, the pre-jury players do matter, and I think if we continue to keep them from the reunion, it will only send the signal that their journeys aren't important, which isn't true. The Survivor Caramoan reunion is not the reunion energy we should be manifesting. My number one hope for Survivor 43 is for the show to put an even sharper focus on player agency and decision-making. This has been a major trajectory of Survivor over the last 2 seasons, and I'd love to see them go even further down this path as we get deeper into the 40s. Prisoner Dilemma Island, the Hourglass, Do or Die, the Amulet, Beware advantages, almost all of the new twists and turns of the game these seasons had some element of risk and reward, putting more control into the hands of the players. Of course, sometimes it was a little too much control, you know? I'm not exactly sure we should be giving the players the literal ability to go back in time. I mean, what if Erica accidentally went back too far? Back to the time before dinosaurs weren't just confined to zoos. But most of the advantages of the last 2 seasons have required an element of decision-making, resulting in balancing the risks of taking or using an advantage and the rewards they would gain. And that's great. Fans have been saying for years that the idle play rinse and repeat is getting stale. Making idols come with a significant risk to obtain them is perfect. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to have a lot of advantages, giving players more agency in the game and granting them more decision-making power when it comes to advantages is a great move, and naturally invites viewers to ask what they would do. Fostering discussion and engagement. Do I work with the other players who hold part of the amulet? Or do I try and blindside them so my power grows stronger? Do I risk getting reward at exile, or do I play it safe, knowing I might be giving power to an enemy down the line? Do I risk my vote for a Hail Mary save, or do I hope that my scrambling at camp was enough to save myself? Do I open a rift in the space-time continuum, or not? I've really grown to enjoy the new twists and the new spins on old twists, especially now that the more controversial among them are disappearing moving forward. So putting an even finer point on player agency and decision making is my biggest hope for Survivor 43. Got nothing else for ya. Hope you're all as excited for Survivor 43 as I am. Until next time, don't get idled out.